Zimbabwe holds elections on Wednesday, largely a two-horse race between 8-year-old President Emmerson Mnangawa of Zanu PF and 45-year-old Nelson Chamisa of the Citizens Coalition for Change. But with inflation over 170% and more than half the population in extreme poverty, the economy, of course, a key issue for Zimbabweans. But so too is the freedom for politicians to campaign and the freedom for citizens to support the party of their choice. Let's speak to a member of the opposition party now. Lawyer and politician Fadzayi Mahere joins us. Fadzayi, thank you so much for joining us. I would imagine that the state of the economy is dominated.
Currency crisis. You will have noted the currency inconsistency, the policy inconsistency when it comes to the crisis, the currency in Zimbabwe. 1 minute they dollarize, then they change their minds, they introduce a bond note, they introduce the RTGS. There's huge confusion in that regard. They have no clarity whatsoever as to what the actual currency is. They then introduced what they call a gold token, but which has got no legal framework governing it. The stock exchange is also all but collapsed in value drastically. I think the figures are that a number of counters have actually had to exit both the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. So when all is said and done, it's clear that Mr. Mnangagwa has completely failed to solve the economic crisis. He's failed to address the macroeconomic fundamentals. He's failed to resolve questions around property rights. He's failed to resolve the debt crisis. Zimbabwe is currently sitting on $18 billion in debt. He's failed to pursue fiscal consolidation. And so all of this makes for mass suffering for the ordinary citizen. We have seen mass poverty across all 10 provinces of the country where citizens can barely put food on the table. Citizens cannot access quality public health care or education. And citizens are suffering and they're saying, look, enough is enough. It's time to introduce a government and vote for a government that actually works for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, with the economy then in such a mess, one would think that it's going to be an easy win for the opposition. How hopeful are you of a free and fair election?
Well, what we know for certain is that Zanu PF can never win a free and fair election in Zimbabwe. In fact, all the data points to a victory for President Nelson Chamisa and the CCC, which is why you continue to see Mr. Mnangagwa panicking. You've seen them ban over 102 opposition rallies. Currently, 42 CCC members are jailed for campaigning peacefully in Glenview, which is one of the suburbs here in Harare. One of our MP candidates is actually jailed at the moment for peacefully campaigning. We also had a situation where Zanu PF tried to ban 12 of our candidates in Bulawayo, which is one of the second largest province, from participating in the election. Zanu PF killed, they murdered in broad daylight and cold blood one of our members who was traveling to a rally called Tinashe Chitsunge. ZEC is refusing to release the voters' roll. The Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation is falling foul of its constitutional obligation to give equitable and fair coverage to the opposition. And so all of this makes for a clear panic on the part of Zanu PF. They're staring defeat in the face. Whenever they behave like this, we saw it in 2008, it's because their backs are against the wall and the data is telling them that they're about to lose. We've also seen an upsurge in political violence. At the same time, we've seen huge resilience on the part of citizens who are bent on voting. They say no matter what, we actually had a huge influx of citizens coming in from South Africa, from the diaspora, saying, look, we want to cast our vote in rural areas, all 36,000 villages where we've mobilized citizens pursuant to a mass rural penetration drive. Citizens are geared for change. They say, look, this is the final act of courage that we need to do into the queue that's going to end all queues and end our mass suffering. So we're extremely hopeful from that end, but we certainly call upon all state institutions institutions that have an obligation to act independently, impartially, fairly, and professionally, to act in accordance with the constitutional standard, especially the electoral management body. We continue to demand release of the voters' roll. Why should it be a secret when the Constitution said that all political parties and stakeholders must have it? Why are they not making available details around the ballot paper? Why was postal voting done under a cloud of secrecy? This doesn't hold up to the free, fair, credible, and verifiable test set out in our Constitution, which is cause for extreme concern.
Yeah, I can well imagine. We will be focusing on Zimbabwe this week, and let's hope it is a peaceful election and a free and fair one. Some very troubling signs, though, and thank you so much for chatting to us, as always. Lawyer and opposition politician Fadzayi Mahere from Zimbabwe. Now,